Beautiful. Okay, welcome to our webinar, free weekly webinar on all things bioenergy healing, consciousness, wellness, health, and everything in between. And each week I'll bring you some ideas and thoughts and healings to inspire you, uplift you, and bring you into a new, greater level of health and well-being. So and if you want to join in on the webinar at any time and you want to ask a question or you want to participate in it, if you take your mic off mute, you'll be recorded. You'll be part of the webinar. It will end up on YouTube. But if you don't want to be recorded, just keep your microphone on mute and you won't be filmed at any time. That's the gist. And we're going to jump forward. So our webinar tonight is called Look No Hands, and I wanted to speak about a few different things, from the darkness of winter to no New Year resolutions, and a couple of things in between. So where to start? Well, I think the first thing is just realizing that when we slow down and we breathe together, healing already begins. You know, we don't have to, we don't often have to do as much as we think we do for the body to come into a natural healing state. So I thought tonight we'd start off with just a few breaths. And as a group, maybe we could just slow down, take a moment just to breathe together and relax the monkey mind for a little bit. And it's one of the first things I always do in sessions is I just stand with someone and I say, let's breathe together. And I'll show you the pace of my breath. It's just like it's a slow pace. So it's just like a breathe in. And let it fill up like fully, as if it's expanding. And then let it breathe out. Breathe in. And breathe out. Breathe in. And breathe out. It only takes 3 breaths to relax the nervous system. And then I like to do, once I get the nervous system relaxed, I like to take 3 more breaths. So let's say 3 more at that same pace. Breathe in. And just let it fill, open and expand. And then breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Beautiful. Thank you for joining me for that breath. It's nice to just slow down the breathing. How we breathe and the breath pattern is a reflection of how we're living our life. And a lot of times it's really uncomfortable for people to actually slow down and just focus on their breathing, because their mind wants to be doing something. They want to be busy. It's like, in one way, we don't have time to breathe, when in fact, that's what we really should be making time for, is some time for some conscious breathing. So it's a beautiful time to always just interrupt the unconscious process, interrupt all the thinking and doing, and at any time taking 3 slow, long, deep breaths. And the way to kind of activate the breath is to slow it down, is the first one. The second one is to lengthen it. And the third one is to deepen your breath. And it just takes you off that unconscious, habitual, just breathing and doing and doing and breathing and breathing and doing. And it just, breathing, the most beautiful thing about breathing is that it's not in the future and it's not in the past. You can only do it from now. It's pure conscious awareness, because you can only breathe from this moment. So as we come back into the breath, and we slow down and we open up, and so we open up to our first topic of the night is New Year resolutions. So I think that, and this is just a thought that I put out there, is that I mentioned in some of our last webinars that the world is going through quite a transformation, is going through quite a change. And as the world unravels and as people go through their own healing journey, and I like to think of it as from the unconscious to consciousness. So we're unraveling ourselves. We're coming into greater levels of awareness and consciousness. And as the world shifts from this, what we might call an old paradigm of living in an unconscious way, to a new paradigm, the old paradigm being the caterpillar, the new paradigm being the butterfly. We're in this transformational shift. Last week, we called it the goop, so in the middle is the goop. Someone else called it the mush, so in the middle of the caterpillar butterfly is the goop, it's the mush, it's the literally the collapse of systems, it's the unraveling of our old way of doing things. It's really, on that deep spiritual explanation, you might say it's the death of the ego. So the world is going through the death of the ego world, and individually, so that's collectively and then individually, we're unraveling our own wounds, which is the death of the personal ego. And so as we unravel those personal wounds, as we go into our inward journey, I feel, and it's just with people I've spoken to, is like one just simple thing. A lot of people said to me this year that they weren't making any New Year resolutions. Now, I don't know if that's been true for anybody here, just by a show of hands, or you can do a little hand emoji. But is there anybody here who hasn't made any New Year resolutions? Interesting. Wow. So, so a few people have said this to me, and they're like, they've said like that, the pull isn't there to do it, that something is different. And I felt the same thing. And it's like, sometimes I have a capacity to feel into the energy, to understand it, and then to communicate or to verbalize what I'm experiencing. And then people are often like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. That's what I'm experiencing too. And I think it's just from years and years and years of working with energy that I'm just able to like put words to it. And so what it is, why I say like no New Year resolutions, is because I think that we're literally being pulled into the present moment, like kicking and screaming, but we're being pulled into the present moment. And what does that mean, we're being pulled into the present moment? Well, we're so used to, you know, in one of the webinars, I said, like, everything moves, like everything is energy, and energy moves in waves, rhythms, patterns, and cycles. And so we're used to moving in like, we're so used to moving in cycles and rhythms and patterns. So just like we have, you know, we're in January, is the beginning of a whole year, right? So it's a big wave of energy. It's the beginning of a whole year. And then we have like on Mondays, we have like the beginning of the week. So every Monday, it's the beginning of your week. Every Tuesday, you've got a Tuesday every week, the things that you do on Tuesday. Wednesday, we have our free webinar day. So on Wednesday, we do the free webinar. And Thursday, you have your Thursday's day stuff. Friday, you have your Friday stuff. And Saturday, you have your Saturday stuff. And Sunday, you have your church stuff. Or I don't know if you go to church, but Sunday is, you've got stuff on that day too. So every day is compartmentalized into, these are the things I do on these days. And the way the calendar is, the way the seasons are, these are the things we do in these times. And we've been doing that for a long time. Like collectively, not just us individually, you've been doing it for your life, but collectively as a culture, as different cultures, as populations being on this planet, we've been living in this cycle that's been going on and on and on and on. And one of the things that's happening on an energetic level is some of the cycles, the cycle of time and space is changing its relationship. The cycle of time and space. And so what does that mean? It means that, like, in the last couple of years, you may have felt like time was speeding up. Time was going so fast. Like, where did the time go? It was like a blip. And then suddenly moving into a space where, like, your relationship with time is different. It's almost like, I don't want to say there's all the time in the world, but you're being more focused only on what's in front of you at this time. So it's almost even getting harder and harder for people to make plans. I'm going to plan this, I'm going to do this. So the way that you used to do things, you might find it just like, it's not calling to you, or it's not pulling you in the same way. So the same way why with New Year resolutions, don't worry if you're not making any New Year resolutions. No plans means more presence. Not Christmas presents. No plans means more presence. That you're being called into the present moment. You're being called back to the vertical flow of energy. You're being called back to the self. You're being called back to what I call the spontaneity of the present moment. The spontaneity that anything can happen in this moment. And when we're so fixed on what we know happens and what's going to happen, we start to limit that spontaneity, and we go into the cycles, we go into the patterns. And as an example, like, you know, this year has never happened before. This is a brand new year. And it's the same with Monday, just like oh God, it's Monday again. That particular day has never happened before. But because we give it a name, like Monday, all of a sudden we lock it into something that we already know. And we lose the spontaneity that comes with each new day. And it's the same, like you see it with kids as well. Like, you know, when a child is young and they see the bird in the sky, they're amazed. They're like, oh my God, you know, they're amazed at the bird in the sky. Once they start to catalog and know it as a bird in the sky, you know, the parent is like, look at the bird in the sky. And the kid is just like, seen it before. So once we catalog, we stop to see the magic, we stop to see the wonder. And calendars are a way that we do that. We start to like clog ourselves in. So in terms of like you come to the new year and there's a part of you that wants to like open and expand and shine. And at the same time, it's funny, our new year is right in the middle of winter. Nothing begins in the middle of winter, right? Except for our calendar. Is really bizarre, because most things start, like if you look at nature, most things start in spring, right? They start to, even flower buds, you know, they start to emerge in spring. So what are things doing in winter? In winter we hibernate. Look at animals, they hibernate, you know. So winter we go inwards, we hibernate, we reflect, we go into the inner healing, the inner world, the shadow world. We go into ourselves. It's, you know, it's a really, unless you live in New Zealand, it's a really dark time, especially in Pacific time. The days at like 4 o'clock, it is so dark. Like it's darker than underneath the bed. It's so dark. And in this darkness, we're being pulled back inwards it's the inward journey where we go into our inner healing, where we get pulled into the self, where we get pulled into the unconscious, you know. And it's a time of rest. It's a time of recuperation. And part of that is that part of why we need that rest and recuperation and healing time is so that when the seasons change, when the spring comes, and maybe spring should be the beginning of our new year, but when the spring comes, because we've rested and we've hibernated and we've rejuvenated, then we're ready to go. When spring comes, we're ready to go. You know, we're ready to open and expand. And I often think of that in healing, is that there's times where we learn something, we're taking it in, and we're not sharing it, we're just taking it inwards, and then we start to integrate it. And then once we've integrated it, then we express it. So there's a natural kind of process in which we absorb information, we take it inwards, we integrate it, and then we express. You know, sometimes if we absorb information and we express it before we integrated it, we might not even get the opportunity to integrate it because the energy doesn't continue down through the chakras. So sometimes we have an idea, we communicate it, and we never actually integrated the idea. And so in the winter time is a time of like not expressing, allowing it to come in, allowing it to sink down, allowing what we know to integrate, and then being able to express ourselves when something is fully integrated. So that's a few thoughts for you there. In terms of those in Vancouver who are looking for some inner healing or some inner work, I have some healing evenings coming up. There's one on January 19th, one on February 21st, and one on March, I think it's the 24th. And it's from 7 to 9:30. It's a healing evening of some working on intent, bioenergy techniques, and breath. And so it's an exploration of your breath, and it's a beautiful time to do some inner healing for yourself. So they're in person, and they're in Vancouver in the West End. Just a thought for you. They are, and I'll tell you, there's a little surprise for that at the end. So at the end of our webinar tonight, I'll have a discount for you. It's 111 for the webinar, and I'll let you know. I'll give you a code at the end to get a little discount. Now moving back, that's our advertisement. moving onwards. This term, look no hand. So I have that as part of our title tonight. This term, look no hands. When we're doing something like bioenergy, I know the very first time I saw bioenergy, I mentioned this in the previous webinar, the very first time I saw bioenergy, I thought they were crazy. And it wasn't because I hadn't seen energy healing done before. I had seen it done before. but I'd seen it done as like hands-on, like more like spiritual healing, hands-on healing. And I mean, this is like more than 30 years ago in Ireland, right? So like any spiritual healing or that was done as a kind of a hands-on. And then I saw this modality, bioenergy healing, and it wasn't even hands-on. So now it was going a step further where it was hands-off. There wasn't even like touching the body. It was a hands-off modality. And I come to describe that, as you know, as the high-speed Wi-Fi of healing. But at the time, I found it very bizarre. Like, how can you heal without touching the body? And I've often mentioned in seminars and webinars that the very first time I experienced bioenergy and the person was working on me, I could feel the energy flowing and moving through my body. I could literally feel energy being pulled out my lower back. And it was like I was suffering with asthma at the time, and I felt like the asthma was being pulled off my throat, and that some of it was being pulled down my chest and out my back. And it was the most bizarre feeling of being able to feel like these things moving through my body. And I remember like it's kind of funny because the very experience I had, I see a lot of people doing the same thing, is that sometimes so people will be receiving healing, their eyes are closed, and then they open their eyes and they just look to see if you're touching them, because they literally can feel it's as if you have your hands on them and your hands are just a few inches away. But they're like, your hands are so hot. And then they open their eyes and they realize your hands aren't on them. And they're feeling the exchange of energy, this exchange of energy and information that is flowing between the practitioner and the client. And this energy and this exchange of information can happen without even touching the body. And that's why I call it the high-speed Wi-Fi. It's the high-speed Wi-Fi of healing. And what that is that there's energy flowing between the hands of the practitioner and between the client receiving the healing. And there's energy flowing and moving. Your hands, for the practitioner, your hands are the conduit. Your heart, your hands, your eyes are the conduits. Your intention is like a tuning fork, right? So your intention tunes into the frequency. And your breath is the amplifier. The breath amplifies the frequency. And then the hands direct the frequency. So the hands direct the energy. So the intent is like a tuning fork. The breath amplifies the energy and the hands direct the energy. And so when we're working with clients and we're directing and flowing and moving energy into the body, one of the main things that we're doing in bioenergy, there's so many different ways to explain it. And of course, like I've been doing bioenergy for 30 years and I've explained it in a lot of different ways. But if I can bring it back to the absolute simplicity, like all healing, whether it's bioenergy or any other healing, there's kind of two processes. One is you're either creating space or you're trying to transform blockages. So any kind of hands-on is more of a transformational effect. You're looking to transform or change the frequency. And so hands-on is more of a transform or change the frequency, or a channel. So you're looking to, by channeling a different frequency, you're looking to transform or change the energy. And then the other process of energy healing, which the bioenergy is kind of more focused on or more based on, the other part is to create space in the energy field. And what I really love about that is that the practitioner doesn't have to push or force anything to happen. You're not trying to force the energy to change. You're just simply creating space. It's kind of like a traffic jam, right? You're going into the energy field, you identify where the energy is blocked up, the traffic jam, and then your job is to help the energy flow. So you're helping the traffic to clear. If you don't clear the front of the traffic will just block up again. So in terms of the bioenergist, they're identifying one of the 7 major junctions that could be blocked. And there could be more than one major junction that's blocked. So there's 7 major junctions in the body. So just like the roads, if the junction is blocked up, then the roads back up afterwards. So in terms of the energy body, you've got 7 major chakras of the body, and minor chakras too, and some other chakras. You have chakras that aren't even in your body, but we won't go into them now. They're on the UFO. But coming back to like our body, our biofield, we've got 7 major chakras in the body, 7 major points of greater electromagnetic energy that correspond with the 7 major glands of the body. So these chakra centers correspond with 7 major glands. The chakras feed energy to the glands, and the glands and the meridian lines carry and feed the energy out into the organs, out into the tissues, the cells, the blood, the bones of the body. And so through this process of energy feeding in, there's 2 main flows of energy: the cosmic energy that spirals down through the body, the Earth's energy, Mother Gaia, that rises up, spirals up through the body. And this cosmic energy and this Earth's energy, they spiral up and down through the body, meeting in the heart area, the heart chakra, the place of the breath, the place where we breathe, the place where spirit and earth connects, the place where the 2 worlds that we live in, the physical world and the spiritual world, where the 2 worlds join, where the physical body comes into its form, where our thoughts, feelings, and emotions all gather together. So this is the space of the heart. And from that space of the heart, that's the space where all the 7 major chakras of the body, that is the center point for the whole chakra system, and that's in terms of healing, that's the most important of all the chakras. That's the place where healing is done for. So healing comes in through the person, and it comes out through their heart, it comes out through their hands, it comes out through their eyes, it moves with their breath, it moves with their intention. And this is the kind of development or focus of the practitioner. But then in terms of when a practitioner is doing healing, the process is one of gathering up, drawing out, releasing, and being a clear channel for the energy, but clearing energy and releasing energy without using their own energy. When people use their own energy, they get drained, they get tired. And so when energy is done correctly, you should never get drained. You should never get tired. So if you're working with people, if you're helping healing people and you're getting drained or tired, you're doing something wrong. You're using your own energy. And so the process of healing is that you're never using your own energy. You're tapping into what we call in bioenergy the vertical flow of energy. Your heart is what taps into the vertical flow. And as your heart taps into the vertical flow and you're healing and you're working with people from that space, in that vertical flow, you have an endless supply of energy. It never runs out. When we're working within our own energy, of course, we're going to run out because our batteries get run down. We go high, we go low. And so the beauty of like learning to become a practitioner or learning to manage our energy is that we're tapping into the vertical flow of energy. We're tapping into the higher, we call it the 5D, the 5-dimensional state, where we're in the vertical flow of energy, tapping into an endless, abundant supply of vitality, wellness, consciousness, openness, love. And from that place, when you're giving and you're healing from that place, you literally can't give it away. Literally, as you're giving healing away, your body is being continuously refilled, refueled. But when we're doing healing, we're doing it from our own self, from the personal self, from the ego. You're always going to get drained. You're going to get burned out. You're not going to want to keep doing it. So a lot of times when, over the years being a trainer for a whole school, people come and they'll say to me, Michael, I've been doing healing for a couple of years, and how do I protect myself from other people's energy, or how do I stop myself getting drained when I work with people? And my first thought is, well, we need to retrain you. And the reason being is that when people are protecting themselves from other people's energy, and I should probably do a whole webinar just on this one topic because it's really important. But if you're protecting yourself from someone else's energy, you're in a relationship with them. In quantum physics, they call it entanglement. So there's the moment you step out of your center to protect yourself from something, you're already defeated. So it's when we have a misunderstanding of the energy, we're creating these protective mechanisms around ourselves, and we're trying to push things away. But everything that you push away, inevitably, like the pendulum, will come back to you. So the thing is not to be pushing things away, not to protect yourself from things, but just simply to be in your center. But we'll maybe plan a webinar around that, because it's a really cool topic, and it's probably actually one of the most popular ones. The other part then is like, just how do you stop yourself getting drained from being with other people? Well, it's whenever we disconnect ourselves from spirit, from our vertical flow of energy, which is really nature. It doesn't matter whether you call it God or the big tree down the end of the garden. It's really, spirit is our connection to nature. And when we're connected to nature, which is our nature, because we have earth, water, fire inside of us. So the earth, water, fire, and of course air and the ether, these make up our body. Like even everything in your body turns to dust at the end, right? We go back to matter. We go back to earth. You have heat in your body, right? That keeps your body warm. You've got water in your body. You'd be dehydrated. So Shiva's saying it's hard to stay in the center of ourselves. Absolutely, it totally can be. But the idea or the image that I give to people about staying in your center is let me just see if I have a pendulum here, and I'll show it to you. Oh, I do. Perfect. So this is our pendulum, right? And you notice with the pendulum is the pendulum likes to swing when we push it, So if we pull the pendulum off its center, and the pendulum is being pulled off its center. And so sometimes we're living like that. We're living pulled off our center. And when life goes a bit crazy, it's only because it's trying to balance itself out, and really, if we're like pushing forward too much in life, we're also pushing ourselves off our center. And in order for balance to occur, there always has to be, like, we have to go to the opposite end of the spectrum. But here's the most beautiful, I think, simple lesson I can share with you. With the pendulum, and look at the world, right? The world is in utter chaos, right? Just to put it out there, the world is in chaos. But what the world is doing is is when we've been living so far off balance, look what happens when we let go. It literally goes to the other side of the spectrum. And that's the world. The world is being rocked from one experience to the other. We're in absolute polarity and duality right now, right? Of like, people are being pushed or forced into, like, all the inner world is coming out and being exposed. People's fears and judgments and all of that stuff is coming out, but not to punish us, folks. It's coming out to free us. It's coming out to liberate us. You know, it's not that we wake up one day and we arrive in the golden age. It's not that we wake up one day and the caterpillar becomes the butterfly. We're in the absolute goop, you know. Now, Shiva says, well, how do we, it's difficult to stay in this center. And it's absolutely true. But this is the bit that I want to show you, is that what happens to pendulum when I let go? Yeah, it goes chaotic, right? It totally does. But what happens after I stop pushing and pulling? This is one of those really good pendulums that just keeps on swinging. But eventually, what happens to pendulum when we're not doing anything? Look what happens to pendulum. It comes into its center. And that's us right there, folks. The biggest problem in our life is us. We're in our own way. We're pushing, we're pulling, you know. And so what is bioenergy healing? Bioenergy healing is basically helping people let go. You know, now why can't people let go? Well, because it's unconscious. We don't even know that we're holding on. What we even let go of, right? There's the things that you know that you're holding on and you're just having trouble letting them go. And then there's the things you don't even know that you're holding on to. You know, some are physical, some are emotional, some are mental, and some might even be spiritual. So, you know, why healing? Why do energy healing? Well, because you're going in and working on the biofield. You're going in and working on the inner aspect of the person to access the blueprint or the biofield where people are holding on. It's all about the holding on, believe it or not. It's where they're holding on to things that are keeping them off balance. And so, you know, sometimes even in healing, people say like, oh, I'm feeling a lot of pain in my body after the session. And it's like, you know, well, that's great. And, you know, they're like, why? And I'm like, because you're, as you go to the opposite, as you feel more pain, then eventually what happens when it comes back into the center, people are like, I'm pain free. Well, yeah, you don't go from having pain to having no pain. What happens is when you start to feel, when you start to go inwards and you start to unravel, you know, so what the practitioner is going to do is they're going to bring you back to your body. So most people think they're in their body. Not really. Most people are, you know, you're not even in your mind, believe it or not. We're out of our minds. Your mind doesn't exist in your head, you know. It's like your body exists within the mind. It's not that the mind doesn't exist in the, a lot of times people think, well, your mind is in your brain. No, everything exists within the mind. You know, everything would exist within consciousness. Consciousness doesn't exist inside of you. You exist inside of consciousness, right? So the patterns that we have, like, where are those patterns even stored? Like, you know, people think, well, my blockages are in my head. Well, your head doesn't begin and end here. Your mind doesn't begin and end here. Your consciousness doesn't begin and end here. Everything is within the field of energy. And so what we want to do is tap into that field and unravel those blockages, unravel the things that we're holding on to, get ourselves out of the way. And so really that's what healing is. Healing is helping people get out of their own way, you know, in a beautiful way. Now I'm going to interrupt our broadcast for if anybody has any questions. So if anybody has any questions that they want to throw in at this point, please feel free. You'll take your mic off mute and, you know, or you can put there's a little hand up that you can do too. But if not, I'll continue on yapping.
I want to thank you for bringing this up because I was finding that I was getting exhausted before a session.
Yeah.
And then after the session, I felt light and wonderful. Like yeah, so this really rings true for me. And yeah,
Mm,
thanks.
beautiful. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, on that note, like, I mean, this is more like in the practitioner side, but it's self-care is so important. You know, when people are doing healing, if you're not taking care of yourself and you go to do healing from a place of not taking care of yourself, you're going to be drained at the end of it. But if you're taking care of yourself and you're coming into alignment and you're doing your work, you're doing your inner work, and you feel in your center, when you go to do healing from that place where you're in your center, not only will you give a, like, as a professional practitioner, you're going to give a great session no matter what. You know, so when a client comes in, you're going to give them a great session and they're going to be happy and they're going to get great results. You know, that's, you're a professional, that's what you're going to do. But if you're coming into the healing and you're not taking care of yourself, or you're not fully charged, you're going to feel it at the end of it, and you're going to feel it in you. You're going to feel drained. The client won't. The client will be like, God, I feel great, thank you so much. But you're going to be like, I don't want to do this anymore. But on the other note, though, if you're actually taking the time for the self-care and you're coming into your vertical flow, and you're connecting with your breath, and you're connecting with your intent, and you're in that place, and maybe practicing some of the qigong, and then you go to do a session from that place, oh my God, you expand in the session. It's like a dance or music, and you get the opportunity to access this dance with the universe, where you feel and experience the energy moving through you, and you feel and experience the energy moving through the client and their chakras, and the blockages releasing. And it's like, it's effortless. It's like you're not doing the work is happening through you, because you're connected. When you're connected to spirit, it's moving you like a dance. It's moving your hands, opening your heart. It's allowing, it's working the energy through, and you're just an instrument, and it's effortless. And it's just this beautiful connection and dance. And in those moments, right, where we're doing a beautiful session and you come out at the end of it, you'll feel that. You'll feel deep peace. You'll feel deep love. You'll just feel like, you know. And I think I might have mentioned last week, like, sometimes I finish the session and the person will say to me, like, I feel so, I don't know what you did, but I feel so light and I feel so free. And it's like, that is inside all of us all the time. You know, we're getting out of the way of coming into our center. So yeah, it's so important to take that time to do the inner work. Thank you. Yeah. Take another question if anybody has any questions or any comments.
I know the breath work is important, and being a beginner, nature has always inspired me. And when I'm in nature and let myself go, I can feel the swirl or just the energy or something. Is there anything that I can do to notice this more? I mean, now in winter, I have plants inside. Seed catalogs still do go outside, but is there anything more you can offer that would help move it along?
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, I think you know, a daily routine. Like in the last webinar, I mentioned like 10 things that you can do for yourself, like to create a change in your health for the new year. And I think like having a routine, whether that's going out for a walk in nature, whether that's meditating, whether that's doing yoga, you know, like having a routine is so important, especially like it pulls us through the winter, right? Because there is like in the in the period of time as well of the winter season, it is a period of time of us going in and doing our inner work, rather than kind of like switching off and just like feeling depressed or closed down or just waiting for the next season. It's a really good time to access that inner world. And so, you know, one of the greatest things with meditation is that when you organize your mind, your body follows, right? The mind organizes the body. So it's a beautiful time. You know, people will often say, well, my mind is too busy to meditate. You know, well, that's why you meditate. It's not that your mind is too busy. Your mind, that means your mind is always busy. It's just showing you what's happening in the mind. It's just the difference with meditation is now you're aware that your mind is friggin' busy all the time. Before that, you were unaware. Meditation is making you aware of what's happening in your mind. You know, yoga is making you aware of what's happening in your body or what's not happening in your body, right? And so as we create practices like, you know, whether it's going out for a walk in nature, I mean, it's such a simple thing that we can do for ourselves, getting out for a walk, fresh air, breathing, you know, and breathing without a mask on, breathing fresh air. Your right to breathe, just breathing fresh air outside, you know. I mean, I don't know. I sometimes I think the world has gone crazy when I see someone running in a forest with a mask on. It's like, I don't get it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, but coming back to our capacity to breathe and connect with our breath, connect with our energy field, connect with our body, our mind, our spirit. It's not overcomplicated. It's all about coming back into balance. And just like the pendulum, it's more about letting go of stuff than it is about having to push or force or do anything. The sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic, they work as an oscillating current. They work together. You know, and so as we get out of the way, they start to function together in a much healthier, more balanced way.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome, Kashi. Okay, so what does that leave us with? Well, in terms of, we mentioned like when you're having healing, I think like in terms of that like high-speed Wi-Fi, like how is that happening? Well, there's an energy field all around the body, and there's you know, without going like too deep into the trying to understand it, but just giving a basic understanding, you have approximately 70 trillion cells in your body, and each one of those cells has approximately 1.17 volts of electrical potential, which creates an electro field around the body. And every electrical field has a magnetic field. So now you have an electromagnetic field around the body. And so this electromagnetic field that is around the body, on one level, you have the organs, tissue, cells, blood, bones, all with this electromagnetic field around it. Then on another, in another way of understanding, like that not all the organs, tissue, cells, blood, bones are using the same energy. They're all vibrating on, like almost like with different tuning forks. And so now you have 7 major chakras, or let's say 7 major glands of the body, and each one of those vibrates at a different frequency. And the reason each one of them vibrates on a different frequency is because they're tuning the energy to the specific energy that the organs, tissues, and cells in that area of the body into what they need. So there's the main flow of energy that flows through the body, which is the cosmic energy and the earth's energy, and it flows through the body like a twirl field, and it flows in creating what's called we call it the biofield, but it's also called the chi, ki, prana. So this field of energy, this chi, ki, prana, is created in and around the body, flows through the body, is divvied up through the 7 chakras, and then as it's divvied up through the 7 chakras, it gets divvied out to the organs, tissue, cells, blood, bones, through the nervous system. But running adjacent to the nervous system is meridian lines. So there's energy pathways that run adjacent to the nervous system. And these energy pathways are like little rivers that carry the electromagnetic energy throughout the body. Now, in terms of when that energy is flowing freely through the body tends to be healthy and well. And when the energy is moving and flowing, just like a river, it's carrying information, it's uploading, it's downloading. So like in the terms of the Wi-Fi, it uploads and downloads. But when the energy is flowing through the body, when the river is flowing, we tend to be healthy. And stress is one of the main things. I've always said that, like, stress is the main thing that blocks up the energy field, whether it's emotional stress, mental stress, physical stress. I would say never underestimate the power of emotional stress to shut down your energy field. It's not just like a job or physical stress, but even like for someone, the ending of a relationship can literally feel like the ending of their life. It's the heart chakra, which is like a flower, literally closes down when someone has a broken heart. And they literally close down, and it's phenomenal emotional pain and suffering that people go in. Of course, and to be blunt, we do it to ourselves. The Buddha says suffering is optional, right? So suffering we do to, like, you can't stop life happening. Like, you know, I often think too, like, shit happens, right? It's literally the manure for our evolution, right? The shit that happens in our life is the manure for our evolution, you know. But sometimes we get stuck in it and we don't shift, we stay in it. But it's the stuff that happens in our life is there to help us grow and change and challenge ourselves. And I used to teach this thing on my level 2 training, and it was just like where we get a cup of tea and we put it a tea bag, and you put it into the hot water. Some of you who've taken the level 2 will remember this. So it's like you take the tea bag and you put it into the cup of hot water, and you take another tea bag and you put it into the cup of cold water, and you take another tea bag and you put it into a cup with no water at all. And after a few minutes, you know, it doesn't matter how long you leave it. If you've got the cup with no water in it and you have a tea bag in it, you can't really experience anything. You can't experience what that tea bag has to offer, because the water is what's connecting the tea bag and you're drinking it, your experience of it, right? So without the water, you don't get to experience. No, so then in the next cup you have water, but it's cold water. Well, unless you want some iced tea, but basically the cold water doesn't bring out the flavor of the tea. It basically tastes like water, you know, just with a hint of tea in it, but it basically tastes like water. So sometimes, like in life, we want things to be easy. We don't want the hot water. We don't want the challenges in our life. But this is the thing that I've come to understand. When you take the cup of tea with the hot water and you look inside with that tea bag in the hot water, after a few minutes of that tea bag being immersed in that hot water, the water is infused with experience. The water is transformed. It has flavor and taste and a whole new experience collected in that water. You only really get to see what the tea bag is made of when it's dipped in hot water. And I think people are like tea bags, folks. People are like tea bags. It's only when they're dipped in hot water that you get to see what they're made of. You know, the challenges that come up in our lives, they're not there to hurt us. They're not there to punish us. Our soul has one purpose: to free us and to liberate us from suffering. to free us and to liberate us from suffering, to open and expand our heart and open and expand us into full enlightenment consciousness. That's the only purpose of our soul. It doesn't even mind if you're unhappy. It doesn't mind if you're unhappy, if you're sad, it doesn't care if you're happy, if you're unhappy. It doesn't care if you're healthy, if you're unhealthy. It has one purpose: to free you and liberate you from suffering. Now, you can do that in a healthy way, or you can do that in a unhealthy way, or you might not do it at all. But your soul is going to keep bringing opportunity after opportunity after opportunity for you to free and liberate yourself. And sometimes we're like, people be like, I don't want to be sick anymore. I want to be healthy. I don't want to be sick. I want to be healthy. Your soul, like, there's no learning in that. There's no learning in you just like getting rid of your ailments. Well, why get them in the first place anyway, right? Like, if you're not going to understand why you're sick, if you're not, like, you can have surgery and have illness cut out of your body. And guess what happens? It comes back again. You can go and have physical manipulation done on your spine. You hurt your back and you have physical manipulation done on your spine. And guess what happens? Your back pain will come back again. You'll put your back out again. Why? Because you're not getting to the cause. You're just looking at the superficial, the artificial. You're just looking at the effect, not the cause. So our spirit, our this consciousness part of ourselves that is always moving us towards waking up and coming into the heart and coming into our full, for want of a better way of saying it, our full fractal Christ consciousness. Our soul is always like moving and opening and expanding us into that. And it's not afraid to put hot water in our life. It's not afraid to give us hot water, not because it's trying to scold us, but because it's trying to show us what we have inside. It's trying to show us the very nature of ourselves. And I mean, what do we say? Who am I? That's, common question. We might stop asking it after a while, but deep down, like, who are we? What are we? Well, how do we find that out unless we're challenged, unless we get to experience the hot water unless we get to make some tea out of our experiences? And so I think life is always bringing us and pushing us to that kind of experience. So when people say, I don't want to have this anymore, like, why me? And look, one of the biggest things I've seen for people being sick is people get caught in victimhood. Poor me, it's victimhood, right? And you can hope and you can pray, but it's not going to get you out of victimhood, because you got to understand that you're co-creating with the universe. You're co-creating. You're on some deep level, you're asking for transformation and change and awareness and enlightenment, or you wouldn't be here. On some level, some deep level, everything that you're asking for is coming to you, but maybe not in the way that you expect, not in the way that you think. And so when you ask for healing, the universe is going to bring you opportunities, but it's not going to fucking do the healing for you. Dear universe, take my suffering away. Yeah, it'll give you opportunities to take your suffering away, but it's not going to take your suffering away. That's yours to put down. That's your chair to put down. If you're carrying a chair around and you're like, God, universe, this chair is so heavy. The universe isn't going to take it out of your hands and put it down. It might bring someone into your life that says, hey, did you know you're carrying a chair? And you're like, no, I didn't know I was carrying it. I'm like, well, it must be very heavy. Why don't you put it down? And the person's like, what chair? And it's like, sometimes people don't see what you see, right? Sometimes you're able to see, like, people have a blind spot. People don't see their own stuff, right? And so sometimes we're like, dear universe, help me. Well, I think I came to Canada because I think maybe before I came to Canada, there was a lot of people in Canada that said, dear universe, please, like, give me some healing. Please give me some teaching. Please help open my heart and open my consciousness and teach me how to heal and teach me how to do healing for other people. And, you know, please send me someone who is a great teacher, who's very funny, who's very handsome, you know, all the wonderful things, you know, and I think that maybe a lot of Canadian people were asking that. And there I was in Ireland, and the universe said, look, you need to go to Canada and you have to help these people find a humorous, good-looking healer, you know. But I wasn't able to find one, so I came myself, and here I am. And, you know, what is the process of healing? Well, look, you can't do healing for another person. All healing happens from the inside out. All healing is us getting out of our own way. But my God, we can help each other. We can take the wisdom and the lessons that we've learned and the love that we have in our hearts, and we can help each other put down those chairs that we're carrying. We can help each other dissolve our pain and dissolve our suffering and realize that we don't need to carry this suffering forward from one generation to the next generation. We just have to end it within ourselves. And as we go in, when we take the opportunity to go into our healing and complete our wounding, bring it to an end, then we stop passing that on, you know. And there's a beautiful concept in the First Nations, is that when we truly heal, we heal back 7 generations, and we heal forward 7 generations, you know. And, you know, for some people, they think, well, how can you heal back 7 generations? You know, some of those generations are long gone, right? But here's the most beautiful thing to understand, that everything is energy, frequency, and vibration. And even your ancestors, they're still vibrating just on another frequency. And when you heal, they celebrate. They celebrate. When you come into awareness, when you come out of your suffering, when you enter into freedom, peace, and liberation, your ancestors celebrate. You know, because they're part of you. They don't stop. They coexist in, we can't even get our heads around that. But if I could, before we finish off, if I could help you understand it even in a proportion of it, it's kind of like if you imagine a radio or a TV, when you choose into one station, the other stations don't cease to exist. And just because you're tuned, like a tuning fork, because you're tuned into one frequency, we'll call it 3D, because that's its name. But just because you're tuned into this one station doesn't mean the other stations don't exist. And they all exist on different frequencies. And so what we're doing is we're opening up ourselves to receive more of the multi-dimensional frequencies that we're a part of. And those our capacity to receive is increasing. And in order for us to be able to receive and hold more of the energies and the frequencies that allows us to act a greater part of our consciousness, we have to like have resilience. We have to be able to maintain our grounding and our sense of connection as we move through the different energies and the different frequencies, you know. Anyway, that's the thought for today, or thought for the week, is yeah, we have this capacity to go to go backwards and forwards in time and heal not just ourselves, but also heal our ancestors and also heal the future generations, and to do it all in this now moment, And like I said, sometimes when we try to be doing other things that are not part of this now moment, the universe is going to keep pulling you back to this now moment, because it's like, kind of like what I was saying, like the pendulum. We've been living really far off balance, and now we're coming, we're moving from that 3D into the 4D. And as we move into this 4D, our experience of time and space is changing, and we're going to be really pulled more and more into being really present with what's happening right now. So your concept of time, which is the 4D, is starting to shift, and you're being pulled more and more to honoring what's actually happening right now. So even when we go to talk about the past, I think you're going to find it harder and harder to talk about the past, especially when you're with someone who's with you in the present, and you're in the present, you're like, why are we talking about the past? And you start to breathe and you start to connect. And, if you want to take like a little golden nugget away today, not to be confused with a chicken nugget, but a golden nugget, an idea. And this idea that don't hold people to the past. Ooh, how beautiful is that? Don't hold people to the past. Don't hold people to how you used to know them, how they used to be, how they used to act. None of us are the same as we were 3 years ago. Every single one of us has changed. Every one of us has gone through this phenomenal transformation, through the goop and through the mush, coming out the other side, the butterfly effect. And don't hold people to the caterpillar, because we're not there anymore. That part of ourselves has passed. And the more you try to go back to that place in yourself, the more difficult it's going to be. And the more you try to hold people to that place, the more resilient they're going to be, because we're not the same as we were before. And so we have to access the energies that are here now, not the old way of being. Anyway, it's kind of like we've upgraded your internet and you want to go back to dial-up. Don't do it. You can't do it. You can't go back to the dial-up. It's all that we can't do it, right? We're on the high speed. We got to learn how to use the high speed. We got to learn how to tune in, listen to our intuition, open up to the present moment, tap into the energies that are available to us. And, if you need help with that, go and have some bioenergy sessions. Go to our website, check out the practitioners. You'll find someone near you. And as I mentioned, I have a couple of healing evenings coming up, one in January, one in February, one in March. January 19th, February 21st, March 24th, a healing evening from 7 to 9:30 in Vancouver in the West End. If you want to come along, have a beautiful healing evening. It's $111 for the evening. And just as a little surprise, a little bonus for you for coming to the webinar, it'll be $88, and you just put in the promo code webinar bonus. So just put in webinar bonus if you want to come to the healing evening, and it'll reduce the price from $111 down to $88, just as a little surprise for you as part of our new year, or I'm going to call it the 30-year, the big trio, the 30-year deal. So this year I'm practicing bioenergy 30 years, and it is a big mile, it is a big mile mark. How did I say that? Yard mark. But it is a big thing, right? 30 years of doing bioenergy, having helped thousands and thousands of people. And you know, we have this phenomenal ability to heal ourselves. And I think if you can take on some of these ideas that I'm sharing with you, and you're able to slow down and hear what's being said, our capacity to heal is phenomenal. We're so much more powerful than we've been led to believe. So if you get the opportunity, if you're in Vancouver, please join me for the healing evening. If you're interested in a level 1 bioenergy workshop, our one for January is sold out, but we do have one coming up in March. You'll find that on our website. And we've a level 2 coming up in May, and there's going to be a great surprises on that one, because it'll be the 30 years of bioenergy in May. And we'll also, another big surprise is we have a level 3 bioenergy in Mexico. So Jim, Aaron, come to Mexico. We have like this beautiful retreat in Mexico that we're doing, the bioenergy reunion, 30 years of bioenergy, and it'll be in Mexico in May. You'll also find information about that on the website. Everybody else, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. I'm just going to stop recording here.